the AC. Hot takes. Lights, camera, and action is large. Eagles get flattened. The lord to this debate why I hate and get irate. We rate and irritate. Your game is on my plate. The fans anticipate. Of course, we give them great. Gonna turn up the AC. Got the temperature raising. The latest, hottest takes. No bias for ratings. We coming with straight heat. That's why it's amazing. Go ahead and share the link if you feeling what they think. Pulling daggers like Katie. Launching missiles like Brady. Hot takes on the daily. Outcome is amazing. Only kick with the icy. Analytics unlikely. No matter what they speak, hot takes turn to basic.
All right. So over the weekend, we had WBO champion Terence Crawford get a ninth round stoppage over Mean Machine. Cava Kavalaskis, I believe is the pronunciation of his last name. I'm not sure. But I had never heard of this guy or never seen this guy fight until the Terence Crawford fight. And I must say he was pretty impressive. I mean, he did his thing, but Crawford just showed there's levels, to the whole get boxing game. And Crawford is clearly on a level higher than Mean Machine. And from what it looks like, there ain't too many people in Crawford's class. But I mean, let's give credit where it's due. Mean Machine did his thing early on. He had some success. I had him up 2-1 after 3 rounds, including he hurt Crawford and he got his attention early. Like, look, if you're not on your game, I can hurt you. So it was good to see Crawford make the adjustments and really stood there in the pocket and let Mean Machine know, like, you're not just gonna body me. You're not just gonna hurt, like, knock me out. I'm Terence Crawford, and I'm a better boxer. I'm a better fighter. I'm better in every way imaginable. And I think Terence Crawford proved that. Uh, very impressive stoppage in the ninth round. So Crawford improves to 36-0 with 27 knockouts. I mean, no disrespect to Mean Machine. I mean, he's no slouch. He overall record of 21 1-1 with 17 knockouts now. He was an '08 and 2012 Olympian for Lithuania. So I mean, this guy has a resume, you know what I mean? So he's not no scrub. And Crawford just proved that he's the better man. And we're looking forward to seeing what's next for Terence Crawford. Uh, in that, I believe it was the third round. Crawford could have got. I mean, a lot of people might say he got knocked down. I mean, it was ruled a slip or like a push or something like that, so it didn't count as a knockdown against Crawford. But if you look at the replay, you look at the footage, you look at the fight. I mean, it was pretty clear that it could have been ruled a knockdown, but it wasn't. The fight went on. Crawford made his adjustments, and he ended up winning in decisive fashion. So that's really really good thing that I wanted to see. Crawford is an amazing fighter. I personally have Crawford as the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. I don't think he might be the best welterweight, but I mean, only time will tell. One thing's for sure, like I said, I have him number one pound for pound. Because of what he did at 135, and then he was undisputed. Excuse me, he was undisputed at 140, and in his first fight, he won a championship from Jeff Horn. And let's be honest, yes, Jeff Horn was undefeated. Yes, Jeff Horn took the belt from Pacquiao, but he did not beat Manny Pacquiao. Let's just be completely honest here. He didn't beat Pacquiao. I personally had Pacquiao winning the fight. The fight was almost stopped in the ninth round. Speaking of Pacquiao, Crawford went on a rant before the fight, pretty much saying, he's ready for anybody, for any of the PBC fighters, Spence, Pacquiao, Porter, Danny Garcia, you name it, all those guys, who are with Al Heyman and Fox PBC. Um, I believe Crawford is ready and willing to fight any of those guys. It's unfortunate the business side of boxing gets in the way at times, but I do, like I said, I do agree. I mean, I do believe that Crawford wants to fight all these guys, and I do believe the fights will happen in due time. But let's be honest, for PBC and Al Heyman, they don't have to make this fight with Crawford. because they're building their guys up right now. They're pretty much having a 147 tournament. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, the winner of that tournament is going to be the A side whenever they fight Crawford, especially if it's a guy like Errol Spence or Manny Pacquiao. They're going to be the A side in the potential super fight with Crawford. So I don't believe there's a point in trying to rush that fight happening, in terms of boxing and politics and all that. What, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, Crawford needs to be in there with those big names. He has to. Post fight, after the Crawford win, Tim Bradley, went out of his way to call out the PBC fighters, all of them basically saying they're ducking Crawford, except obviously he didn't call out Wilder because that's a different beast. But all the other guys, the Danny Garcias, Sean Porters, Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao's, he pretty much was calling them out and saying, y'all need to get in the ring with Crawford, stop ducking and hiding and whatnot. Now, I can't really put too much weight into what Tim Bradley said, about the whole calling out the fighters from PBC, because as soon as Bradley was mandated to fight Errol Spence for the IBF, that man retired. So I don't want to hear nothing about nobody ducking from you. Now, Crawford, I can take all that because, like I said, I believe Crawford wants those fights. And I believe Crawford believes he can beat every single fighter over there. But there's a business to boxing, and he re-signed with ESPN, and it's unfortunate that that's the way things are, but that's the way things go. But yeah, I just wanted to drop a little video, do some thoughts about Terence Crawford, number one pound for pound fighter in the world to me, and he's got a good shot at beating any of the PBC fighters, any of them, Spence included, Pacquiao included. Now I mentioned Pacquiao earlier, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit because on ESPN First Take, Terence Crawford stated that Manny Pacquiao ran from him. Manny Pacquiao ducked the fight against Crawford. Now, I'm not gonna say I don't believe that he ducked the Terence Crawford fight, but it's kind of hard to believe that he ducked it because Pacquiao, over the course of his career, fought everybody, anybody, and everybody, and he's coming off of that impressive win against 30-year-old in prime, undefeated world champion Keith Thurman, and he dropped him too. So I mean, let's just be honest, Pacquiao will fight anybody. But one thing I did want to point out from Crawford saying Pacquiao ducked him. Well, for those who don't know, Manny Pacquiao was on the same side of Terence Crawford for many, many years with ESPN Top Rank, and they were clearly the two biggest fighters over there, and they never fought. Being in the same weight class, about the same size, Manny Pacquiao he was 140, 135, previously, and Crawford started there, 135, 140, now 147. So there was nothing stopping them from fighting, but there was someone who stopped them from fighting, and it was Bob Arum. In a previous interview, I forget who he had the interview with, Bob Arum said that he killed the Manny Pacquiao Terence Crawford fight because it was protecting his best interests. Let's just break it down and look at it, from what it is. If Crawford beats Pacquiao, there goes your cash cow. Pacquiao was the cash cow at that time. Unless you're a real boxing fan, a lot of casuals at the time didn't really know who Terence Crawford is. I mean, they do now, but at the time they probably didn't know who he was like that. And they could have built Crawford into a huge megastar. But if Crawford lost to Pacquiao, which is possible, um, then that could have hurt Crawford. Especially if he got dominated by Pacquiao, it could have hurt his stock. But I do say one thing: Top Rank really did miss out because, granted, Crawford is, in my opinion, number one pound for pound. His resume isn't the best resume at 147. I could think of a couple of guys off the top of my head whose resume at 147 is better. I mean, let's look at it. Crawford fought Jeff Horn, most would say that Pacquiao beat Jeff Horn. And before Pacquiao, nobody ever heard of Jeff Horn. Amir Khan, what's the thing everyone says about him? He got a glass chin and he quit, so it didn't even look like a good fight. And Danny Garcia stopped him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, come on. And who else? Benavidez. That was a great fight. It was a very entertaining fight. Close for about a few rounds early, and then Crawford pulled away. David Benavidez also was a victim of a gunshot wound, and let's be honest, even without the gunshot wound, if 100% David Benavidez, he still loses to Terence Crawford. Let's just get that out there right now. He still loses to Crawford, but the fact is, he was a gunshot victim 2 years prior to their fight. They finally get in the ring, 12 round stoppage for Terence Crawford. So those are his 3 fights, well, including Mean Machine now. So his 4 fights at the welterweight division. Danny Garcia's resume is better than that. Say what you want, call him a cherry picker. His resume is arguably the best at 147. Take away Pacquiao. Pacquiao's resume is better. Keith Thurman's resume might be better. Is better. Yeah, it is than Terence Crawford's. Um, Sean Porter's resume is better than Terence Crawford at 147. So like, there's 3 or 4 fighters who have a better resume at 147 than Terence Crawford. Let's just be honest. You know what I mean? So that's why Crawford needs these fights against these PBC fighters to build up his stock and his resume. Because as you can tell, as you can see, he's not on pay-per-view. He's not. I mean, he's on ESPN Plus, but that's not pay-per-view. Errol Spence is what, one, two, 3 consecutive fights on pay-per-view. Or no, 2, and if he would have fought Danny Garcia January 25th, that would have been his 3rd in a row. So I mean, PBC's building, and shout out to Al Hammond and PBC because they're doing it. They're doing it big. But yeah, man, I just really can't wait to see Terence Crawford Terence Crawford get into the ring with one of those guys over there. Um, Recently Crawford just said a potential fight with Sean Porter may be, in the works. He may be trying to go get that fight because Sean Porter proved himself against Errol Spence, took him to the limit. There's even some people saying Sean Porter won that fight. Now, I don't think he won the fight. I think the knockdown was a difference. I could have seen it a draw until Spence dropped him in that 11th round. So, yeah, man, it would be interesting to see how Sean Porter and Terence Crawford fight ends up going if they did get into the ring. I hope it does happen. That would be a great fight. Would Crawford fight Porter's game, or would Crawford try to box him? You know what I'm saying? It'd be interesting to see because Errol Spence fought Sean Porter's fight and beat him at it. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be comparisons from someone that Spence fights and Crawford fights if it's a common opponent. There's always going to be the comparisons because everybody wants to see Spence Crawford. Most people believe that's the super fight, at the welterweight division. So, yeah, man, I just wanted to drop some thoughts, how I feel about what happened with Crawford and Mean Machine over the weekend, and then potentially what's on what's next for PBC fighters, what's next for Crawford, what's next for all these other guys. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I can't wait to see Crawford get back into the ring against the top guy. So until next time, this has been Reason. Turn up the AC hot takes. Comment, hate, debate, whatever you want to do. We appreciate it all. Let me know who you think is next for Terence Crawford. Until next time, we're out.